Something so new. Oh la la, oh la la. Won't you tell me? Save me. Won't you tell me?
Good morning and welcome to the Standing Committee's meeting for Wednesday, March 26, 2025. All council meetings will be live streamed on the city's website, and for guest speakers joining us at the table, please do not turn off your microphones. Our first order of business is roll call. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Mr. Charland, Mr. Coghill, Ms. Gross,
Here.
Mr. Lavelle,
Here.
Mr. Mosley, Ms. Cal-Smith, Ms. Warwick,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Ms. Strasburger Chair.
Here.
5 members present.
Thank you. Our next order of business is public comment. I would like to remind all speakers that rules of council state that comments are limited to matters of concern, official action, or deliberation which are or may be before city council, and profanity will not be permitted. Please state your name and neighborhood for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Actually, I don't have the speakers.
I don't think anybody signed up.
Okay, I don't think we have any registered speakers, so we will now move on to anyone in the chambers who wish to approach the podium and speak.
Good morning, council people. I don't want to say councilman or a woman, but council, City of Pittsburgh. My name is Yvonne Rainey. I'm from the Cal Kirkbride. Councilman Lavelle is my representative. I'm proud of him for the work that he does for our diverse minority community. I'm speaking on behalf of the 2024-1346 about housing. How do we get this place again about quality, affordable housing? We are so busy trying to pack our pockets and figure about humanity. We need to be real, because all across this country, we have so many unhoused and families and children and the working poor. How dare you try to once again build off the backs of the most vulnerable population in this city of Pittsburgh to fill the developers and the realtors' pockets for personal gain. Houston, we have a problem. I am a mother, a grandmother, first of all, a child of the Most High God, and I'm a community activist. I have 12 grandchildren, 7 grandsons and 5 granddaughters, and 3 great-grands. What is it going to look like for them when it comes down to the unhoused and the working poor? City of Pittsburgh, open up your eyes, your ears, and your hearts, and think about what you're doing and what must be done for the unhoused. You say we have an issue, you better resolve it, because we elected you to speak for us, for our communities, especially the diverse community. Looking at me as a black woman, you're pushing us out. You're pushing us out of our own communities for the sake of your own personal gain in your pockets. Think about it. Think about your children. Think about your relatives. Keep it real. It ain't gonna make or break you. Stay out their pockets. Yes, we do need developers, but for them not to look at the possibilities of a 10%, y'all keep it real. And it's a shame that you would bring this again and not even speak for the people that the communities you live in. Diverse, black, white, orange, and green. Keep it real, because what affects you affects us all. So be mindful of your decision. We must have quality, affordable housing. Look at the Orange House. Look at the Orange House, and I'm talking about the White House. They're tearing it down. Democracy and our Constitution is under attack because the almighty dollar. Our president was bought, and he is the puppet for the rich, not for the poor. Thank you for your time. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have one registered speaker who is joining us online, Jack Alto. Okay. Lindsay Bailey, you're up.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sorry, just give me one moment. I had it all pulled up here. I have something to read for everyone. Good morning, neighbors of Allegheny County. I am before you this morning not just as a concerned citizen, but as someone who has lived the reality of homelessness. I have slept with homeless people as well as in the Pittsburgh streets. I've shared meals, I've brought clothes, I have clothed them. I've handed out coats in the dead of winter and listened to stories of despair from people of our society has thrown away. Let me be clear. Homelessness here isn't an accident, it's a policy choice. And while we've watched it worsen year after year, those in power have turned their backs. Over a decade ago, Pittsburgh had shelter beds. Now, tenants line the Allegheny River, families beg outside suburban grocery stores. Seniors choose between medicine and rent. Children go to school hungry. This isn't progress, it's collapse. And it's no coincidence Donald Trump's tax cuts for billionaires like Elon Musk are bleeding our communities dry. They will gut housing programs, slash safety nets, and hand corporations $1.9 trillion in tax breaks while evictions skyrocket. Now, Trump's allies have pushed Project 2025, a plan to dismantle every federal agency that protects federal or vulnerable Americans. If they succeed, homelessness won't just grow, it will explode. Donald Trump's cuts to diversity, equity, and inclusion hurt minorities, the disabled, veterans, and the homeless, people who depend on these programs for fair access to jobs and resources. Meanwhile, the H-1B visa system has been abused to replace American workers with cheaper foreign labor. I've seen companies, I've worked at these companies, I've witnessed what these people go through and what these companies do with H-1Bs, and it deprives people of jobs. Americans, including veterans and struggling citizens, and this drives down wages and fuels homelessness. Let's name the truth. When a man who calls himself a king abandons the working class, when oligarchs hoard wealth while families starve, and when politicians adopt cruel policies like Project 2025, they are signing death warrants for the poor. They are telling us you don't matter. Well, Pittsburgh's homeless matter. I matter. And if our leaders in the White House and Harrisburg won't speak up, we will. Here's how to fight back. In Allegheny County, Mayor Gainey and City Council redirect funds to build permanent, affordable housing, not temporary shelters. Tax vacant downtown properties, expand mental health services now. In Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro must stop corporate landlords from price gouging, pass rent control, raise wages, fund addiction treatment, not prisons. Nationally, mobilize against Trump's agenda. Project 2025 isn't a conspiracy, it's a blueprint to erase housing rights, Medicaid, and food stamps. If we don't vote, if we don't organize, and if we don't scream louder than the lobbyists, millions more are going to join the streets. But this isn't about politicians. Look around this room. How many of you have donated, volunteered, fought for zoning reforms? If your answer is not enough, that changes today. I've given my last dollar to folks outside Sheets. I've stayed awake.
Thank you. And you can submit written comments to council that will be distributed. You can submit written comments that will be distributed to all council members, and we'll see it. Next speaker, please.
Excuse me. My name is Yvonne F. Brown. I live in 715 Mercer Street. I'm not too well today, but just need to hear this. This is the reason why I came. I have pictures here. The top picture, it says Pittsburgh Public Housing. That's my husband, 41 years ago, Harold Brown, who is now crippled, who cannot stand up alone unless he has some kind of device or person. He worked for the Housing Authority. There was three of them. Because of asbestos, 3 had strokes. Alan Smart died, and Brownie is still crippled now. The reason why I say this is I keep coming down here to let you know that where we live at, there's things that's happening that you don't know about, and you're not gonna know, not unless you're in the neighborhood. And if you're not, you will never know. I want to tell you also, these 3 minutes is bad, but I wanted to just to show you something. I have all these piles of papers. There was a lady, Katie Everett, who worked for the Duquesne Light as administrator. I mean, that's the highest position a black woman or black person had been. She explained to me that she went to the meeting, all these executive directors and so on, and the main man that was speaking, he picked up this pile and he said, you see these? This is about 150 concerns from the citizens. He said, but these are all pre-printed, and all they did was sign their name. She said, and then he picked up a paper with crumpled, he straightened it out, and he said, look, he said, all of these don't mean as much as this little paper. It was written from a man that said, dear sirs, I am 91 years old. I live on Social Security with a small pension check. Please consider us before you raise it. He says that this means more to me, and this is Katie Everett. She told me, she taught me this is what I should do. I should come down and tell you. You just don't want us to come, or whenever I get loud, but that's a part of me. I went to school, I was in college, I was taught to do public speaking. I'm supposed to look around the room, I'm supposed to involve all of you. When Crouch was here, turn your head around, you must look at the front. While I'm talking, he gets up and goes over and starts talking to my councilman, Mr. Lavelle, and I started screaming, wait a minute, I got 3 minutes. No, don't talk to him. Do you understand? When we take our time to come down, I'm getting tired. And please, Dr. Miller, if you're watching, if Dr. Miller's watching, he tells me I shouldn't say that, but I'm tired. But I'm going to keep on coming till you do something.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Special Agent Sunshine. I return to sender any voodoo hexes, curses you guys send towards me, 100 million billion Googleplex, and whoever's sending it, Lord, throw them into a lake of fire in Jesus' name. The wisdom I want to bring you today comes from Proverbs 12:19. Truthful words stand the test of time, but lies are soon exposed. Told any lies lately, Mosley? We're going to make you the star of the show today. How about that? Because I think in your heart you really want to be a star. In the resolution 1657, the authorized amount you asked for was $93,000. And now there's a new total, which is an increase of $7,999,319. Wait, $7,999,319.37. The reason why I'm bringing up these numbers is from $93,000 to $7,900,000, almost $8 million, Mosey Ruling. What are you doing with the money that's in between there? What I'm showing the world today is the increases that are being made in this boardroom on different projects you guys have going on. And I'm not understanding. Like in the last 2 years, it's been a lot of these increases. And people want to know what y'all doing with this money when you get this increase. We want to see where it goes. Like where you go, Mosley. Is it Vegas? We're going to find out. I promise you. You reap what you sow, more than you sow, and later than you sow. We may not see the result, but God sees every detail of the spiritual chain reaction our decisions have caused. And throughout Scripture, He promises to reward whatever we do that brings Him glory, not you, Mosley. Jesus tells us that the greatest commandments boil down to love. We may never know the full impact of our choices to love, but we can draw deep fulfillment from the privilege we have to bring His ministry of redemption to the world's brokenness. We can rejoice in knowing He's already at work, rewarding us as He increases His kingdom through every seed we sow. The seed I'm choosing to sow today is the fact that, yes, there are still people homeless. We're getting ready to come back on the street Monday from this overflow program that still does not work. But in Jesus' name, we'll all be protected. And y'all will be coming out here with us. That's the change he's getting ready to make. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I wasn't planning on speaking, but honestly, something that has stuck out to me from the moment that I came into this room and people have started talking is that so many of you are on your phones. These people have come here, they are demanding your respect, you guys are not listening. Homelessness is a public health crisis in Pittsburgh, declared in 2023. These people have come here to let you know what they think. You guys need to listen.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. How's everybody? All right, let's perk it up. Got work to do. On behalf of the Black Political Empowerment Project, Tim Stevens, our headquarters is 2201 Wiley Avenue and Kirkpatrick Street and Alma Speed Fox Way. The Black Political Empowerment Project is in full support of the Gainey administration's comprehensive housing package. We feel it's a global approach in confronting the housing crisis in Pittsburgh. We think it's appropriate, with hopefully far-reaching, positive, and long-lasting results. The absence of sufficient housing for the residents of Pittsburgh has been for some time and continues to be an ongoing challenge to all persons and entities attempting to find solutions. A wide-ranging approach with expansive and creative problem-solving solutions will be critical to at least attempting to lay the foundation for a new day in meeting the many housing needs of Pittsburgh citizens. The Gainey administration approach, which includes not only advocating for citywide inclusionary zones, but also parking reform, minimum lot size reform, and creating a creative approach to providing additional housing through the use of accessory dwelling units, seems like an aggressive, well-rounded approach to at least begin to make a dent in what continues to be a shortage of housing in Pittsburgh. BPEP calls upon all parts of city government, the business community, and the citizens of Pittsburgh in general to collectively provide support, encouragement, and positive input into the process, hopefully leading to an expanded housing supply for the citizens of Pittsburgh, at least at a level we've never seen before. And with what has happened at the national level, unfortunately, we call upon our local government to even do more. And also, I want you to investigate the housing facility, the Commons. I've heard some bad reports, and they need to be investigated. It looks like the conditions are totally inappropriate for people who live there. You'll be getting a letter from us soon on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Are there any further speakers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Deborah McCree, and I'm a resident of the North Side. There's a lot of issues around housing. I have seen bad landlords, evicted tenants, new owners to the property. There's all different type of aspects to the housing, especially the R&B. I have 3 right across the street from me, and it's not a nice site because of the stuff that be going on in the R&Bs. Right across, I'm a grandmother and I'm a great-grand. And our children play out there. And there's all type of stuff that's going on. And that 311, they know my name, because I call it all the time, complaining. 3, right across the street. You can sit on my steps and you can look right there and see them. And they have all type of stuff going on all hours of the night. They had one, I guess you can see a person that came to rent one of them out and had a big trailer. We have a small street on Alpine. They left the trailer right there. Couldn't no cars go past, talking about having nowhere to park, because whoever the owners are telling them to have affordable parking, room for them to park. We have 3 little stalls. There's only 3 cars can fit in there, and it's public. Anybody can fit there. But their trailer could not fit in there, so they left it there. I'm against R&Bs. I am. Not because of what happened over there on the north side a couple years ago. We got to do something. And I'm going to fight against it. Because we need affordable housing for the residents of the north side. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Seeing no further speakers, we will now move on to the standing committee's agenda. The first committee is the Finance and Law Committee, and our new paper is Bill 1634.
Bill 1634, resolution repealing an item in resolution number 512 of 2022, effective date September 23rd, 2022, in order to rescind the sale.
I'd like to make a motion to hold for 2 weeks, and I think after talking to David Geiger yesterday, there's some information we want to look into as to how we, do our business in the real estate department. So I also want to thank Councilwoman Strasburger for your help and input on this, and Councilwoman Wilson, I want to thank you for, your expertise in the housing industry here. So coming in and, thanks for putting your 2 cents in, and hopefully we can get to a more efficient, better answer for folks that are involved here. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion on the 2-week hold? Seeing none, all those in favor of a 2-week hold on Bill 1634, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Bill will be held for 2 weeks. Bill 1639.
Bill 1639, resolution amending Resolution 564 of 2024, which authorized 36 open-end professional services agreements with multiple vendors to provide professional services on an on-call basis as required related to various professional services as needed by the various departments of the City of Pittsburgh, each agreement being at an amount not to exceed $1,500,000 annually for a 3-year term, and providing for funding of the cost thereof by authorizing 56 additional open-end professional services agreements with multiple vendors for same various professional services.
Discussion?
Do we need a second first?
Second.
Second. Discussion? Councilperson Charland.
Joshua Lamoni, Senior Sourcing Specialist, OMB.
Thanks for joining us here. So this is I believe this is the 3rd time I've seen something like this. I want to start out, why do you have to come back and renew this every so often?
So we are adding new firms entirely to the list.
Okay.
This is 27 new firms that we are adding to the list. You'll recall that these are now open on a rolling basis up until that 27-28 expiration period. So we're accepting new firms up until that point. We've gotten 27 new submissions. We're trying to cast a wider net. So these are allowing us to enter into new agreements entirely.
Okay.
This is amending the legislation to authorize additional agreements with additional vendors.
So all the previous vendors are still
Those are
here.
taken care of, right? Those are
still in the
Correct.
ITQ or
Correct.
situation. These are additional vendors.
New vendors entirely.
So can you tell us about the vendors?
Yeah.
One thing that I'm concerned about, are we looking at minority contracts? Is that something we're giving credence to?
We have 27 new firms. 9 of those are MWDBE, so that's about a 33% hit as prime contractors. Everyone else who would not be an MWDBE prime contractor is required to go through the EORC process, at which point we ensure that they have adequate subs on record. And so they go into our B2G Now program, and what the Office of Business Diversity uses to monitor. And just every time we issue a work order for that vendor, we go in, ensure adherence to the EORC goals.
So we have, and I'm kind of discussing both of these bills here, but we have the previous contractors that are in the list, and then we have these contractors. Is there a cap on what each contractor can get, or does it get spread out amongst?
Yes. Every vendor, so these are either, forgive me, I don't recall, it's either the mediums or the smalls. Either way, it's either $750,000 or $1.5 million annually. So once they hit that annual cap, which few seldom do, there's a few that we tend to use based on their wheelhouse and their experience, but this isn't usually an issue, but yes, there are caps on that spend.
Do you report out how much each one of those contractors get in terms of quarterly? Does that get reported to council?
Yes.
Okay. I can't say I remember seeing one of those, but you know,
Pete's your man.
There's a deluge of
Peter's your man.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you. And what type of work are they doing here? What the contractors are?
These are, I will give you the exact categories now, because keep in mind, you're going to see a lot of my face because we're about to put in a new set of amendments for a different set of categories. But the ones in front of you today are for architecture, interior design, construction management, commissioning, some engineering, geotech, historic consulting, landscape architecture, project management, surveying, and that's about it.
Okay, so these are mostly DOMI and DPW?
Yes, yes, correct.
Okay, so like right now I've got a real bee in my bonnet about some PLI contractors and some slow contracting that we've had with PLI. Are these PLI contractors as well?
In theory, anyone can use
anyone.
These.
Okay.
Whether or not the category of services aligns with what they need delivered is a different story, but anyone can use these contracts. These are owned and administered by our office. So anyone's allowed to use them with the proper authorization and making sure they got all their ducks in a row.
Okay. Is anyone on there qualified to do emergency demolition?
Emergency demolitions are something that we can handle in a lot more expedient of a fashion than an ITQ, and that'll be a conversation we can have offline.
Very much not my experience. I had a building collapse last week that destabilized someone else's home. Mm-hmm. The building was set to be demolished in October. Now we've got a veteran on fixed income who is shaking every day because his the house next to him collapsed and destabilized his foundation. So, very much not my experience that emergency demolition can happen quickly. Or at least my most pressing issue right now. So, that's a separate contract. That's not one of these on-call contractors.
No, that wouldn't be handled by one of these.
Okay. Where do you know where that would be?
That would be an emergency waiver. Like I said, that's an emergency demolition. I stand by that answer. That's really something that isn't germane to this conversation. But we have done side of the street bids before for emergency demolitions. I can tell you that used to be an option. I'm fairly certain it's still an option.
Yeah, we ended up having to do that again on Friday, but this was supposed to be done in October. So the city failed this resident. You know, all of us failed him. Okay. Will you be coming back with more? Is this something you plan on coming back quarterly?
We are, so I'm getting hopefully approval for these ones today. I'm actually going to be submitting legislation for an amendment to another set here in the coming weeks. So this is phase one. We have phase two, just in order to divide up the workload. I'll be coming back with phase two. My colleague handles it, but I kind of handle all the talking in front of the table.
Yeah.
So
God bless you.
that'll be coming soon. I also, just for your all knowledge, we're probably going to be doing some ITQs for. So we did polygraph services. That was one that I spoke to you folks about before. And then we're also going to be doing a new set here as well for special event services, primarily the 4th of July, so that we don't have any kind of hiccups that we've had in the past with 4th of July services. So we'll have a special contract for waste management, event services, event production services. That's going to be coming up here as well.
Okay. We'll be excited to talk about that and what that might mean in the future here. I guess my question though becomes like, as we expand the pool of people that are these on-call contractors, are like, what are we doing to making sure that the work is spread out?
It's fairly self-governing, honestly. I mean, I would defer to my colleagues in DOMI and DPW for that one, but I know personally they have a lot of incentive to kind of spread out that work. They don't really tend to, and I can speak from experience, I don't really see a lot of repeat contracts coming through my office because myself and only one of my colleagues are the ones that handle the actual work orders in terms of executing them in DocuSign. And we see a very diverse array of them just because everyone has their different wheelhouse and experience, right? Whenever we receive a work order, for Serpentine Drive, for example. Certain historic firms are more experienced in that than, say, the Michael Bakers of the world, the larger conglomerates. And so it's kind of self-governing in the fact that we are able to evaluate based on experience, firm qualifications, how they've performed on previous projects like that, similar scope and size in the past. It's a fairly self-governing process.
So if it's self-governing, how are we making sure that the minority contractors are picked at the same rate that the non-minority contractors are?
I don't really think that's a goal. I mean, I don't want to say it's not a goal. It's based on experience and qualifications entirely. I mean, we ensure that there's proper participation through either primes, which, like I said, we're hitting all of them combined. We have about 40% to 50%. All of them are prime MWDBE contractors. And for the other 50 to 60%, we ensure that every work order goes in front of the EORC for their approval to make sure that they're hitting those sub-goals.
Okay. I guess I will be very interested to see kind of at the end of the year what the minority participation rate is. I know that's a huge goal of everyone in city government, making sure that these minority contractors are getting as much work as everyone else is. And I hope that this is something that helps that process, especially with these smaller on-call contracts, as opposed to making sure that Michael Baker is getting everything.
We are out. I will say that this whole solicitation of these ITQs has been far and away much more responsive in terms of wide variety of vendors. I'm shocked and pleasantly surprised at how well we're performing in terms of both the outreach. That's a lot of thanks to go to the mayor's office with the outreach for this program, as well as kind of the revamping of the whole pre-bid process and what have you. But the outreach has been phenomenal. Our response has been phenomenal. We're getting responses of all shapes and sizes, and I think the evaluation committees have been very pleased with that as well.
Good. All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1639, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1640.
Bill 1640, Resolution amending Resolution 565 of 2024, which authorized 36 open-end professional services agreements with multiple vendors to provide professional services on an on-call basis as required related to various professional services as needed by the various departments of the City of Pittsburgh, each agreement being at an amount not to exceed $750,000 annually for a 3-year term, and providing for funding of the cost thereof by authorizing 56 additional open-end professional services agreements with multiple vendors for same various professional services.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Councilman Coghill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jacob, Joshua. I'm sorry, Joshua. The adding of the 56 total, how many vendors we adding?
Should be about 26, 27.
26 today.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
What prompted that? I mean, did we have a shortage of vendors? Is that why we're signing up?
No, we
on
just
those
don't have an
vendors?
upper cap on how many we would like to see in the goals of, in the means of diversifying and making sure we have a wide net and making sure that we have a wide pool of talent to pull from, right? We don't stop accepting applications, and we don't put a cap on how many submissions we would receive for like every work order.
Okay, so it's normal to add vendors every year.
This
You do
is
that every year?
new because
Okay.
we've revised this entire process. Keep in mind, there used to be larger spend caps. There used to be it was a 3-year initial term with 2 extensions. That has all been done away with. It's just that 3 years flat. So in order to, it's in order to cast a wider pool in light of this new process.
Do you know how many vendors we had total before?
We had approximately 400 to 600
Okay.
live
Okay.
contracts,
Thank
I
you.
would say.
Okay. Great. Okay. That's
It boggles the
kinda what I
mind
was
when you
looking
get
at.
into
Right.
it.
Okay. All right. That's it for me, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1640, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Affirmative recommendation. Thank you very much. That moves us on to invoices. Do I have a motion on invoices?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of invoices, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Invoices are approved. That moves us on to P cards. Do I have a motion on P cards?
So moved.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of P cards, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Affirmative recommendation. That moves us on to Public Safety and Wellness Committee chaired by Councilman Coghill.
Bill 1531, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Public Safety to enter into a clinical affiliation agreement with Community College of Allegheny County to enact a precepting program allowing students to learn professional skills from city employees in the Bureau of Emergency Medical Services for training and educational purposes at no cost to the city.
At the request of our public safety director, a motion to hold for 2 weeks.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion. All those in favor of a 2-week hold, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Bill will be held for 2 weeks. That moves us on to Public Works and Infrastructure Committee chaired by Councilwoman Warwick.
Bill 1664, resolution providing for the issuance of a warrant in favor of United Rentals in the amount of $35,025 for the purpose of portable restroom rentals and servicing throughout the city's park systems at various locations and providing for the payment of the cost thereof.
Motion to approve, brief discussion.
Second.
Second, discussion, Councilwoman Warwick.
You have directed on the table. Thank you.
Good morning, Chris Hornstein, Director of Public Works.
Don Mudrick, Manager of Personnel and Finance, Public Works.
Great, thank you. So I just have a quick, so I know that around last summer, we had an issue with a Porta-John vendor, and we have a new vendor. And so I wanted to just ask about that a little bit, and just with the Porta-Johns also ask about, because folks really want the regular restrooms open in our parks, and sort of how things look around there. I know I have at McBride, there's a restroom that's not, so just sort of the status on that and where we're because I know we have porta-johns like in Frick where there is no, right, where it's just like on the trail or whatever. But, so it's just sort of a status on the whole restroom issue overall.
Oh,
at the
absolutely.
parks. Yeah, thank you.
So first, yes, this relates to that Porter-John work from last summer, or last year, I should say. There was a change in vendors that created a gap in service, but we still needed to provide Porta-Johns. And so, I have here, Dawn, if you could kind of give the background just on.
Sure. So for the warrant itself, this is actually just a bookkeeping warrant that's taking up some old prior billings. They're actually 2022, 2023 timeframe. That's what the 35,000 is. It's just to clean up that old contract and move on. And then, director can speak to the upkeep of.
Yeah, so regarding just the regular restrooms, there are 20 permanent restrooms open citywide that we provide regular in-house cleaning to. I have a list of those. I can share, certainly be happy to share those with council. Part of the challenge with current restroom buildings that we see is that they've been closed for quite some time, and so there's a significant amount of maintenance and repair that would need to be done to bring them online. We're currently looking at how we do that in a thoughtful way, and so we use the Porter-John contract to augment, to provide some level of, facility for folks that are using our parks, or to, plus up for a special event or a large gathering when maybe more additional restrooms might be needed just for a particular event.
Yeah, and I will say that your team has been very responsive to special event type things, right? Like if a porta-john is needed even when it's off season, like for a deck hockey tournament or something, your team's been great about getting that out there quickly for those special occasions. Yeah, I mean, the big issue that specifically at McBride, and I don't know if other folks have this in their districts, is that kids think it's very, very funny to knock over porta-johns. So, this happens a lot, and that's why in McBride in particular, the folks are very eager to see their regular restroom open back up. So I'll leave it to if anyone else has questions.
Thank you. Councilman Wilson.
Thanks. So I got 2 questions. Does this cover porta-johns for special events like the marathon, or is that separate?
That's a separate function that comes out of the special events committee. They'll coordinate that. I'm talking more about like large gathering in parks that we might permit, say like what might happen up at Spring Hill Park, community events where, they don't require a special event permit, but we acknowledge that they need some additional facilities.
Okay. And then what about the cost? This doesn't include the fancier ones with a unlock code or something?
No, I believe, the fancier ones version of our contract would be the ones that are, ADA, fully ADA accessible.
Okay, so this isn't
that
because
kind
everything
of,
we already
not,
approved.
Yeah, you already approved that. That's under a separate, separate contract. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any further discussion?
So,
Councilman Charlin, followed by Councilman Mosley.
Sorry, I was a little premature there. So this is this for like the aquatic centers at the spray parks? I'm thinking like Arlington Spray Park.
If I could just step in and clarify, when we say what this is for, we're not before you for a contract, to enter into a contract. We're just paying old bills.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that type of discussion, I'm sure, can happen at any time, but before you now is just paying bills. It's not entering into a new contract or anything like that. That contract already exists. Our new vendor contract exists and is in place.
So specific to like the Arlington Spray Park and all the spray parks that are on there, where there are permanent restrooms that are active and functioning, we open those and we clean them. So it is a permanent, like we use the permanent restroom for those facilities.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that answers my question there. I've got a couple other questions while you're at the table, but I think we'll get to that on the next bill.
Councilman Mosley.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Councilwoman Warwick's, questions about some of the bathrooms that you had mentioned that you're trying to address, the maintenance and repair, in a thoughtful. What are some of the considerations and some of the challenges, associated with the lack of maintenance and the kind of extended time that some of them have been inoperable?
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole plumbing aspect. Like your home, a home that sits vacant, that hasn't been used, the water's been turned off for a while. It's quite possible that pipes have been deteriorated. There'll be leaks. So you'll have to go through a significant testing period. The same goes with wastewater. We need to make sure that the provisions are there, that the waste service is still active. Sometimes it's not. So there's just a lot of, not just as in the water feature, like the water aspect of it itself, then you have to look into, the condition of the facility. Is it safe, assuming it would be cleaned, is it going to be safe for public use? Is it going to be ADA accessible? I mean, there's a lot of layering features in there when you go to reactivate a building that, necessitates time.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of, investment and an effort, and finance do you think is required, to get the offline bathrooms back online?
That's a fantastic question. I would have to do more research to give you like a rough estimate of number, but it would not be a small amount for certain.
Yep.
It was definitely a six-figure number.
Okay.
At minimum.
Yeah, now I look forward to following up with you, and I'd definitely like to get the list, like Councilwoman Warwick.
Absolutely, happy
the
to
ones that
provide.
are online that are
Yeah.
working, because because I know Councilwoman Warwick, I know I get a lot of questions about Frick Park, Forbes, and Braddock, and some of the ones that are offline, but that exhausts my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all. I am kind of speaking, I think, not to the bill that we're paying, but to the new contract about specifically Porta-Johns. So we do offer Porta-Johns for the kind of community events that people fill out the form and get approved for. And I have often had to request a special like ADA Porta-John. So how do we handle this? Should people do they let you know when they fill out the form that their festival's specially requesting a special Porta-John, or do we offer, what is our policy? How do we handle those?
Oh, I think we offer those on request.
Great.
So when they fill
But
out
it's
the
not
form-
automatic. It's not like every Porta-John
Correct.
is okay, ADA accessible. Yeah. Okay. And so maybe we should check. I don't know. I mean, I didn't think of this question before today's meeting, so we should maybe check and see if the form that from special events that people are filling out for the neighborhood events asks that question.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, let's follow up and do that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any further first round? Second round, Councilman Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate you letting us know that this is for a warrant to pay.
Yeah, not a
It
problem.
sounds like we can change where they're going to vote it up or down.
Yeah.
But this
it's
always
a different
gives,
mindset.
This
right?
always gives us an opportunity to talk about so much more.
Yes.
As you can see.
Yeah.
And likely so, like I'm going to do right now.
Perfect.
Perfect. And so I'm just listening to my colleagues, ask about the current bathrooms that we built in the past and they're not functional. Is that what people are asking you about? Okay.
That's correct.
You said there's like 35? No?
No, I don't believe I said
Okay,
that.
did you say a number?
I did not say a number,
Okay.
no. It is significant, though.
Okay, significant, yeah.
Yes, there are certainly facilities that folks that would come across in our parks that would be locked in our, not in current functioning state.
So I'm going to ask a couple questions here that are going to sound ridiculous to you. The one is, why don't we just go and fix them?
Well, I think to, Councilman Mosley's question, it's going to be a significant cost to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And
Why
we'll
don't
have
we
to
just
do
go
it. We'll have to go and assess every one of those that we want to need
Okay.
open.
And then the future maintenance labor.
Like you've requested the
cleaning,
funds and
supplies.
Like, have you requested the funds?
No, I've not yet requested the funds. We need to build the
program.
Build a program towards that. Yes.
What do you mean, build a program towards?
Well, I mean, we have to have a program to maintain it. So, if we're turning on these facilities, that's going to bleed into.
So you could turn them on. They don't even need fixed.
No, they do need fixed.
They need fixed.
Once they're fixed.
Once they're fixed, they're going to need
so
to
how
be.
do you put the order in to get them fit? Like, have you put the request in?
No, I've not put the
funds?
request in to build them fixed because I think the first step that we need to do, we need to assess the condition of those. That would be the first step in that process. Second step, ancillary to that question.
So would that
is-
cost money?
Yes,
Assess?
absolutely.
So
Yes.
that's going to cost money.
That's going to cost money.
And
then the repairs are going to cost money, and then it's going to
Repairs are gonna cost money.
Then it's going to cost the city money and resources to maintain those.
Okay.
So I would have to balance that against our current workforce to see if additional labor and funding was needed on an annual basis to keep those facilities operational.
Okay. So what steps are we taking to?
Well, first step would be to do the assessments.
Have you requested for that?
No, I've not yet requested for
Okay.
that.
What do you think about that? You think that's something we should do?
I will take that on certain case-by-case basis based on how we cross-reference where we put porta-johns, where there is permanent facilities in the location of. That would be the first location.
So ultimately it's going to cost money. How much money do you think?
I couldn't tell you now.
Like above 10 million?
I honestly, I couldn't hazard a guess right now. It would be.
I heard a lot of council members ask about these bathrooms that they don't.
Yeah, I mean, like it could.
This
be,
isn't on you. This is from.
No.
and
Yeah, this
that's
is
what's
just
been brought
law.
up a lot. Like this isn't new.
This is
right?
deferred.
isn't
This is
new.
deferred maintenance from.
But I think what we're
years.
missing is just like the plan to solve it. So like, what that would take. How much revenue we need to use, how much tax dollars we need to use
Absolutely,
to
yeah.
repair this. And so I think, recently I've been thinking about this because I've been harping on this idea that we need, more revenue, like we need to see Pittsburgh grow. And I was thinking, well, who has a plan like that? That's PWSA. They're like, okay, we have all these lead lines out there. How much money do we need to fix every lead line in the city of Pittsburgh so that people don't have to drink, lead contaminated water? I'm just wondering if we could do that. Just not on you, but for everything. And it's kind of a big thing to talk about on a warrant, but I'm just bringing that up because like everyone's
Certainly.
bringing up like, hey, we can't be responsible for this. Like whoever's in, us in office now, or the administration or the past administration, like I don't know, this problem was here when I got here. It's like, well, who's putting a plan together to figure out how we are actually gonna, make sure the parks are, up and running with running bathrooms, and who is going to put together that plan on how much we should be spending on the fleet each year. So that's just my soapbox right now, but I just started trying to understand like who out there has this plan. It seems like we should be talking to PWSA on how they strategically are looking for how much they need, and they're getting it. So
Yeah, slightly different exercise for Pittsburgh Water versus this specific question, right? I would think that they would be able to project what lines are lead. I would think that they would know what their cost is to replace a line. Therefore, they would be able to estimate long-term what their cost would be. I think there's a material question as to, current restrooms that exist that are non-functional, that aren't also being serviced by a porta-john. There's a material question there as to, does the public need a restroom in that location? Or conversely, is there places where the public ought to have a restroom where one doesn't currently exist? I can think of a couple locations off the top of my head where I would say, that based on what all is here, there should be a publicly accessible permanent restroom based on the configuration of facilities, park amenities, if you will. So there are a couple things there. So I think that planning exercise for us slightly different, same value, but and it also has to take into consideration public input. I think the public input on the Pittsburgh Water lead line replacement is we don't want to drink lead water. So yes, please replace our lines. I think I'd like to hear from the public though on where, and I would like the public to have an understanding of the cost, the potential cost associated to construct or reconstruct and to maintain. That would be informed by what we could do. And then that, I think, helps answer your question about what resources are needed.
Maybe the comp plan could get some of those questions
I
answered
think
for
the
you
comp plan
from the
can get
public.
I think the comp plan could answer some of those questions.
And I would just throw out also, I think that as far as fundraising, right, like lead lines there's a lot of external stakeholders that have a stake in that, and the money is easier to maybe gather up, As far as, in our work with the bathrooms, it would be the public tax dollar and not going out and seeking funding elsewhere, right? Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks. I mean, I'll just say, like, even if they get the funding or not, and they have gotten the funding from us too.
Yeah.
We just
Yes.
provide them the funds, but
Yes.
but they do have buckets where it drops in. So
Yeah.
it's something I've been kind of thinking about what we could bring on our side.
And
All right, thanks.
just one last real world example is we'll use Brookline, because I personally happened to do it back then. And the Brookline Park, it was a pool, then it was shut down, then it was a deck hockey, right? And then we tore down a building and redid those bathrooms. And 5 years ago, that was $70K and 4 months worth of work, just then. And that was a minor iteration.
I've been in those bathrooms plenty of times. The one by the deck hockey room?
Recently? Because I can't
last
take
year.
credit for them.
Last year.
Recently.
That cost $70K?
Yes.
Wow. Those
Yeah.
aren't, I feel like that's how much the Duquesne Club spent on those
Because
bathrooms.
there was,
It does not look
ADA
like the Duquesne
requirements.
Club.
I
Nothing
know,
against you
right?
guys, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So it's going to cost a lot of money.
ADA
I don't know why that costs
requirements,
so much money.
plumbers, electricians, it took all the trades to do that.
Yeah.
And because of the hillside, we even had to bring in a little extra help to make sure we weren't going to, come down. But anyway, yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
We had Councilwoman Warwick, followed by Councilman Coghill.
This is actually an interesting discussion. And I mean, I think I like that idea of hearing from public. I mean, I think about, like everything around the city, a lot of our facilities are older, and even the ones that do work and are ones that we use, I mean, even like like the bathroom at Blue Slide Park, for example. I don't know if that's been upgraded, but the last time I was there, like, it's not the night, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you'd almost rather use a clean porta-john. So in that analysis, you kind of think, well, like fixing what's there, or just build a whole new, you know what I mean? Just tear it down and build an actual modern, like, nice facility. But of course, then, like, that gets even more expensive, et cetera. And, these are the things that we have to weigh, like, across all areas of the city. And, I mean, PWSA as well, we're going to have a post agenda coming up here pretty soon about how they are canceling stormwater projects all across the city, and because they don't have enough money to do them. So, these are decisions that everybody is making. And yeah, I like this idea of sort of looking at bathrooms overall, and like, because I mean, the one by the clay courts, right, in Frick, right, like that one. It looks like a crypt or something. I mean, I wouldn't even, it just, like, the idea of repairing that is kind of, wouldn't seem worth doing, right? Again, but you do need a bathroom there. So tear it down, build something new, put in a porta-john, or I don't know, these are all things we have to think about. So anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Thanks. Councilman Coghill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll have you know, I lobbied hard for those bathrooms up at Brookline Park there. And Donnie and I, we worked good on that. We worked hard on that, and not only that, it was a concession stand, and I haven't been in the restroom, so I better take a trip in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it? It's functional, right?
It's. Yeah.
Right. So
it's there. It's
right.
useful.
So my question is this, right? So how many porta-johns do we have scattered, not counting special events? permanently at parks or locations? Approximately, I don't.
I
need
don't
exact
have the number off the top
Hundreds?
of my head. It's over 100.
What do we spend a year with? Is this Mr. John? Who do we deal with? Do you know? Do we do a separate company, just one, or separate?
No. I can bring it up right now.
No, it's one singular vendor.
It's one singular vendor.
It's no longer United Rental.
Mr. John?
No, Mr. John got bought out. Sorry, for some reason I'm having like a brain moment right now. So
I'm just trying to get a grasp as to how much we spend on what we put out there.
Yep, 1 second.
Because this 35 grand, that's just to cover last year's contract. Is that what we said? I might.
No, that 35 grand is a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paying for.
Is that right?
Past due.
Same service, though.
Same service.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So let's see. So the current company is called Ready to Go. And they bill us. The reason, like, I can give you a full report, before Tuesday if you really wanted it, but they bill us. They send an individual bill per park, and that's how we keep track. Because being DPW and being able to,
So
if
we have
it's
no idea
in
how
a
much we
park,
spend
right?
with them,
I'm using
basically,
parks
right.
tax. If it's in a rad park, I'm using rad. If it's somewhere
And
else, I'm using this.
Donnie,
So-
they do all the maintenance. We
Yes.
don't have to think or worry
Yes,
about
yes.
it.
Every invoice is signed off by our public parks foreman.
So we have
that
no
they
idea
have
what we spend there.
Cleaned. They're
No,
good,
we could
they're-
compile that for next Tuesday. We
We don't even have a general sense. Is it over $100,000?
Yeah, I would say so.
Because I think Councilman Wilson's on the right track. I think we need an analysis. Because when we talk about the restrooms not functioning, then it begs the question, what about the facility itself, right? I mean, if the bathrooms aren't adequate, like Brookline Park, right, Donnie? We could have abandoned that, but we did. We put a lot of money into it. Well worth it, because it was up there. We needed it there, right? So I just want to get a grasp as to how much we're spending with the Porta-Johns every year, and compare that to what it might cost to give some of these. And again, you have to do an analysis, I would think, as to what facilities, what restrooms, are they worth it? Walk through, and obviously we're going to need a plumber or two.
So last year in 2024, I just needed a second to bring it up. So last year in 2024 for Ready to Go, it was just over $219,000.
$219,000. Okay, that's a lot of money. That doesn't count. We also do deal with, again, special events, parades,
That is
things
not
like
special
that.
events, right? Because that's
we same company.
a separate.
We deal with same company, special events, same vendor.
I believe so. I don't see those bills. So.
Right. So 200,000 plus a year. Again, I would like to see, as Councilman Wilson was saying, an analysis as to where these restrooms are in the facility that houses them, and then see what it might cost, which ones are worth fixing, because permanent ones are very nice to have, but they're also not 24/7 like the Porta-Johns, so they're kind of nice for that. And I did want to request for more park. Every year I have to go through this, as Councilwoman Gross was saying about the ADA accessible ones. They always want one down there. I don't know if they're there now or if they come. Are they seasonal? We put them down there like with the
we put
soccer
them,
season and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
we do
Okay,
them
so,
seasonally.
So can I make the official request for ADA accessible at Moore Park as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, he's the boss.
I'll have my office make it
Yeah.
official. All right.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay. All right. Now that's it for me, Madam Chair. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Councilman Charlin.
All right, I have a very gross question, but I'm very familiar with Ready to Go because of St. Patrick's Day and setting up the the Porta-John. Ready to Go offers the service that we can see how much has been accumulated, how much they are removing off the streets. It's something that we use to justify our expenditure to the for the parking enhancement district. Is that something that we get from the city level? Do we know how many people are using our?
That is a KPI I don't know that we ever thought of, but we could certainly add it. That's actually
it's relevant.
an interesting
It's relevant.
point.
It's
it is
relevant.
relevant in Germany.
Yeah.
It is an interesting point.
It's by gallons. They give us it in gallons.
Yeah, but it would tell us. It would be a rough approximation of usage, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
and they would get to EDUs in your world there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it is helpful for us to find that out. The guys at Ready to Go are fantastic.
Yeah, good.
The guys at Pittsburgh Potty were good before United bought them out.
Yeah.
But they're outside the city, and it's very clear they're outside the city. But they are really diligent, and even while I was setting up with them, they were talking about the cleanings they had to do throughout the city today. They're very happy to have this contract and want to earn it.
Well, I know that the great guys and girls and gals and people in the Parks Division, they work very well with them, and they're very happy with them, and they're actually managing this contract, right? So if they have an issue, they can just come straight to me or anybody and say, hey, this is an issue, and if I need to, there are times when I don't pay that particular bill, and we figure it out, whatever, but the front line is managing the contract.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't help myself. It's always a mystery what gets council members, really fired up. Recycling, litter, garbage, composting, and porta-johns. So we won't mention drinking fountains for now. We'll leave that for another day. But no, I just wanted to weigh in because I know it's not germane to like the warrant, but since we're having this conversation, this whole idea of like including in the comprehensive plan or have a separate plan that looks at this, because I also look at it as you mentioned, funding sources, right? Rad Parks will have rad funding, and as we have parks tax money to and maybe after we retire some debt and have some ability to sort of do new and more visionary things with the parks tax in an increasing amount, right? Like we can continue to renovate park after park after park after park, and in doing so renovate the restrooms and find some money to augment, taxpayer dollars, as we've done with some of our park renovations, to do the stormwater piece or to do the other piece, and to help pay for some of the costs defray some of the costs that we might otherwise have. So just wanted to mention that, like, yes, we probably need a parks and restrooms plan, and as the councilman mentioned, but we also need to think of the restrooms as part of the facility or part of the park, and ensure that we have the plan to renovate all of those too, which I know that we're working on, or we have an idea of. We just have to continue to have the money to do that. So, okay. I think I see any further discussions, so we will move on to taking a vote on this very controversial item. All those in favor of Bill 1664, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Affirmative recommendation. New papers, Bill 1641.
Bill 1641, resolution providing for the issuance of a warrant in favor of Canon Tools for the purchase of one Max Scan tool used to repair DPW vehicles in an amount not to exceed $13,499.98 over 1 year.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Discussion? Councilman Wilson.
I was just curious on what this is for.
Okay, so this is used exclusively by our heavy equipment division. It provides diagnostics on equipment. So all of the manner of equipment that we have, large mowers, certain aspects of the street sweepers, heavy equipment, so backhoes, front
So if something
loader.
goes wrong, and before we take it down to the trans dev, they're going to check it with this tool? What's going to?
Yes, absolutely. So this
One
allows
tool?
us to, it's a diagnostic tool. So like when you take your car to the mechanic.
Yeah, no, I understand. So
Yeah.
there's only one tool, though.
Correct.
You going to keep it and then go to, like, how are we going to, there's a lot of different, our fleet is everywhere. So I'm just curious on how this is going to work out.
Oh, no, in those cases, the piece of equipment's transferred down to heavy equipment, and they perform the diagnostics. Right now, when we need to do that, when we need to.
So this is the heavy equipment that we have on Smallman?
Correct.
Where we do our own work?
This is where we do
Okay,
our own
that's why I was
work.
asking. Okay.
The difference between equipment and
Yeah.
vehicles, the vehicle maintenance goes down obviously to
Okay.
Railroad Street, and Transdev, our vendor, is the one
Okay,
that
so this is for our
maintains it.
on-site where we
This is
fix
for our
it.
on-site people.
Gotcha.
yes.
All right, thanks.
Any further discussion? Councilperson Charlin.
Did we not have one of these tools before, or is this to replace the tool?
This is to replace the current tool. Previously, the previous tool came with, was not local, did not have local representation, and so therefore, like when we needed to do training on the use of that tool, they were requesting to charge us in excess of $5,000 for a singular training event. Here, this is a local representation, so they provide training as part of their local rep stopping off. And we get other tools from Canon Tools, but this is just not something that is covered under their current contract.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1664, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Affirmative recommendation. I'm sorry, that was for 1641. My apologies. 1641. We'll correct the record.
Thanks.
That moves us on. Thank you very much. That moves us on to Land Use and Economic Development Committee, chaired by Councilman Wilson. Deferred paper, Bill 1284.
Bill 2024-1284, ordinance amending the Pittsburgh Code of Ordinances, Title 9, Zoning, Article 3, Overlay Zoning Districts, Chapter 907, Development Overlay Districts, to amend Section 90704 IZO, Inclusionary Housing Overlay District, Article 4, Planning Districts, Chapter 910, Downtown Districts, to amend Section 91001 GT, Golden Triangle District, Article 5, Use Regulations, Chapter 911, Primary Uses, to amend Section 91104, Use Standards, in Article 6, Development Standards, Chapter 915, Environmental Performance Standards, to amend Section 91507, Performance Point System.
I defer to the bill sponsor.
Motion to hold Bill 1284 for 6 weeks and extend council's 120-day deadline to hold its public hearing on the bill.
Second.
Discussion. Councilwoman Gross, followed by Council President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see no reason to consider amending this bill. It has had a negative recommendation from Planning Commission. As far as I understand, according to our city code, council's next obligation is to hold a public hearing, right? So it had a public hearing at the Planning Commission. According to our city code, the Planning Commission takes a vote, sends a referral and recommendation to City Council, which it did on February 21st. Out of overly abundant deference to the bill's sponsor, we are only now discussing it at a standing committee hearing because the bill's sponsor did not want us to even have it on the standing committee agenda, which is protocol. It's not written down in council rules, but it was deference, right? And so here we are on March 26th. So the bill has already had a month in the nebula, right? And I feel like that's long enough. So the citizens are owed their city council hearing. So we should move forthwith to have that hearing. I cannot make a motion to hold for Cablecast public hearing since there is a motion on the table, but I do intend to do so. I would urge my colleagues to vote no on Councilman Charlin's motion to hold this in limbo even longer. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Council President Lavelle.
Thank you. I also agree that we should not hold this any longer, just for clarity, so everyone does understand. To Councilwoman Gross's point, I did defer to the bill sponsor, and we did have a couple conversations when he may or may not bring this back. But at some point, I do believe we need to give the public their just due to weigh in on this. Members spent until close to midnight having a conversation about both this bill and the competing legislation, and I do believe we need to move this forward. I'm not sure, we can have an interrogatory if the bill sponsor wants to articulate it, but I'm not sure what an additional 6 weeks gets us, given that we've already been sitting on this for about 4 weeks since the Planning Commission made its recommendation. So I was the individual who asked the clerk to please put this back on our agenda. I believe we need to now hold this for the public hearing. And just so members are all clear, and looking at our legislative schedule and looking at the various pieces of legislation, the various public hearings that we had to have, I thought we need to get this moving because there's a lot of work before us. And we need to have those serious conversations, be they positive or negative or somewhere in the middle. So I'm against an additional 6-week hold, but I do believe we need to move forward with the public hearing. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, let's do a roll call vote on the 6-week hold.
Mr. Charlin?
Aye.
Mr. Coghill? Ms. Gross?
No.
Mr. Lavelle?
No.
Mr. Mosley?
No.
Ms. Kell-Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Warwick?
No.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Strasburger, Chair.
Aye.
Ayes 5, noes 4.
Bill will be held for 5 weeks. That moves 6 weeks. And the 120 days will be extended as well. That moves us on to Innovation, Performance, Asset Management, and Technology Committee, chaired by Councilwoman Gross.
Bill 1635, resolution authorizing the mayor and the city solicitor to enter into a professional service agreement or agreements with SciComm Data Systems, Inc. for computer services relating to continuing maintenance, support, and upgrades to city law, the Department of Law's current legal case management and administrative support software system for an amount not to exceed $11,424 over 1 year.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1635, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Affirmative recommendation. That moves us on to Intergovernmental and Educational Affairs Committee, chaired by Councilman Mosley.
Bill 1636, resolution authorizing a cooperation agreement or agreements providing for the transfer of funds not to exceed $125,000 to the City of Pittsburgh Equipment Leasing Authority for the purchase of vehicles for the Department of Public Works, Bureau of Environmental Services. This expenditure is associated with grant funds that the city will receive from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection from the 902 Municipal Recycling Grants.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion?
Councilperson Charlin.
Yes. Director?
Chris Horstein, Director of Public Works.
Vanessa Reeves, Recycling Supervisor.
Thanks for being here. Is this related to the electric recycling vehicles?
No, it's not.
Okay. Is this, so we're purchasing new garbage trucks?
We're
What-
purchasing a new stake bed truck to replace our 20-year-old stake bed truck.
What's a stake bed truck? I apologize for not knowing.
No, it has a large back where it has a lift gate so we can transport large equipment like big 96-gallon toters that we used for different special events.
Okay. And this is to buy one of those?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I thought this was more about recycling trucks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Coghill.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Vanessa, did you say you were in charge of the recycling fleet? Is that what you said? Did I hear that right?
The recycling supervisor.
Oh, okay. So
I deal more
not
with the
so much
contracts.
the fleet, just the program itself.
Right. So I do handle grants where occasionally we do get funds to replace our aging fleet.
Okay. I'm on the Equipment Leasing Authority Board. I know only too well of the dire need of vehicles for this city. I want to tell you, every 2 weeks we do recycling. I had 3 cycles in a row where we did not have our recycling picked up. So that was 2, 4, 6 weeks without our recycling. What would happen is everybody would drag their stuff out to the curb, and nobody can. So then they got to drag it back in. Some would leave it out. Some stuff ended up all over the roads, everywhere. do we not, and from what I understand, and I talked to Mr. Hornstein, that equipment like broken down, those vehicles like were kind of not, we don't have enough, or there are so many broken down at once, or can you speak to that or no?
I can speak to that. So yes, the trucks break down frequently. They're aged and old, and all across the fleet. In this particular case, we do use the stake body truck for specialty work. Unlike the regular recycling and garbage fleet where we have numerous vehicles, and some of which include a certain amount of what we would call spares. Okay. And the state of our fleet is such with those vehicles that the spares themselves are also broken, so there are no vehicles available to begin the work.
I guess I always felt our recycling vehicles were newer than our typical,
no.
refuge trucks. No.
No.
So they actually go back. They're blue. They're all blue, right?
That's correct.
Right. So that fleet is now old. That fleet is
ancient, yes.
Ancient,
and
right.
this particular vehicle does not have a spare, so when it is out of service, it is out of service and the work can't be performed, and now it's just consistently out of service.
So I don't know how often it happens that like we just don't have the vehicle to go pick up that neighborhood that morning. But I guess my gripe is like, we need to inform people if we can't do it. I don't know. We go to local news stations. I don't know, but for them to drag it out and drag it back in, half of them leave it out there, and then that's for another 2 weeks. So it's gotten to be like a problem. Now this is the only time. It's been 3 weeks in a row, or 3 cycles in a row, 6 weeks in a row. It's been really the only time. Since then, it's been regular. So maybe that was just a glitch that time, and maybe it's not a problem. But I wish we had some alert system or something that we could put out to people, a text, a phone call saying, guess what? Don't put your recyclables out because we can't pick it up, basically.
I've actively been looking for funding for that same thing for the last year.
Is that right? So a mechanism to contact people to say, guess what? With the snow, we're not picking your garbage up tomorrow. Or, our fleet is broken down and dilapidated and we just can't get there.
It's also a combination of timing, because sometimes a truck could be available in an hour, or sometimes it could take several hours. So it's a little hard to predict how long the delay will be.
Okay, but as it is now, we don't have any we don't contact them if we can't pick it up.
We don't have a mechanism to do that.
We don't have any contact. So they just have to figure it out. They get picked up, bring it back in. Okay. Well, I'd love to see that change. I don't know how much money it would cost to put some sort of system like that in, but
about $30,000 a year.
I hope not to need that, right? I mean, the goal is not to have to need that, to be so regular that we don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, that's it for me, Madam Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilperson Warwick, apologies.
I just wanted to we had a post agenda about our aging fleet. I believe it was you, Councilman, that held it, right? And if I recall, the number for everything, right, was something in the ballpark of $22 million a year. Like if we could do it all, right? So I know there's been lots of talk about vehicles over the past few months, and I will remind everybody about that number when it comes budget season. So I'm not saying that's a number we can hit, but we know the number, right? And we control the purse. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mosley.
I just had, one quick question. That this expenditure is associated with grant funds the city will receive from Pennsylvania's Department of Environmental Protection. Could you just elaborate a little bit about that grant program and potentially how much funds are associated with the grant that we're receiving from the state?
Yeah, so this 902 grant is a recurring grant that the city is eligible to apply for every other grant period, which is typically about every 2 years. And the current grant funding was $200,000. So with that, we applied to get a new stake bed truck, and then the rest of it is going to be used for outreach because we are trying very hard to revamp our recycling outreach program.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1636, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1637.
Bill 1637, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant payable in favor of the Chartiers Valley District Flood Control Authority to renew the City of Pittsburgh's membership into the CVDFCA and pay fees for the 2020 year 2025 in an amount not to exceed $17,204 over 1 year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Just very briefly, weren't we trying to get out of the Chartiers District Flood Control Authority? Didn't we approve that previously?
I do remember something like that.
There was something a while ago, but I can't
Or
remember.
maybe it was a different authority like this?
I think
you're thinking of Steel Valley. Steel Valley.
Yeah. Okay.
Steel Valley, that's
Right.
All right.
Right.
Okay.
I think there was something like this one.
Councilperson Warwick.
I was just curious about I'm not familiar with this.
Do you want him to come? He said.
Oh yeah, sure, sorry.
So the Chartiers Valley Flood Control Authority is associated with Chartiers Creek. There are numerous municipalities that are a party to the Flood Control Authority, including the city of Pittsburgh. So the Flood Control Authority's responsibility is to maintain the flood control measures that were installed by the Corps of Engineers in those areas, and that includes a variety of structures. And so their sole charge is to perform maintenance and inspections. They work with the Corps of Engineers. Every member is levied an annual dues to pay for the maintenance and repair of these flood control structures. This comes from all the municipalities that are party to it. It includes Heidelberg, it includes Carnegie, it includes Crafton, it includes Thornburg, it includes
Fairywood.
Yeah, there's very,
Just have to mention some city
Bridgeville,
neighborhoods.
yeah. But I think most impactful in District 2, East Carnegie, Fairywood, those neighborhoods that border Chartiers Creek, they're protected by the flood control measures that might be upstream from it. So this was enacted, I think 50, 60 years ago by federal resolution. And so, every year we're owed these dues. And so I think in prior administrations, prior leadership on public works, may have sought to remove themselves from the Flood Control Authority. However, in my opinion, I think that the city benefits greatly from it. I know I was just at their annual meeting last week, so they'll be beginning work on the East Carnegie portion. They'll be doing some maintenance of the flood control structures then in that area, and that is what these funds go to pay for.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councilman Coghill.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Coghill, she called you.
So, wasn't there some sort of cataclysmic failure down in by the Fort Pitt tunnels with Chartiers Creek just a few years ago?
Not on Teresa's watch.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Wasn't there some sort of design, something that failed there?
I think you might be thinking of Sawmill Run.
Okay, well, that's what my next question is. Sawmill Run runs
Does not
and
have
Chartiers,
any-
do they not meet there? No?
No.
They don't. So they both go separately into the river.
That's correct.
Oh, I always thought that they met, right near the Fort Pitt tunnels there. So that's Sawmill Run there, though.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Sawmill Run would
Right.
go through the West End,
Got
would
it.
go
Got
through
it.
your district.
Yes, right.
Well, along 51.
Yeah, we don't have an agreement like that with Brentwood.
There is no
Pheasant
formalized
Park.
structure. Again, this was authorized by U.S. Congress like
Got it, right.
60 some odd years ago. I can't remember the exact date.
So when something goes wrong with Chartiers, or if it needs dredged or whatever.
Correct. This
that's
flood control
funding there for it. And
yeah, and this
part of
flood control, and
being-
there's, they do annual inspections.
Right.
They partner
No
with the-
cost to the city. It's
Well, there is a cost.
It's
to
just
the
being part of
annual
it
dues
here,
are-
right?
yeah.
Exactly, right. But we don't have that for Sawmill Run.
No, No, Sawmill Run is, every municipality for themselves.
That's on us, because that's floods 51 at times. You've been there.
Right, but I think it also extends up through those neighborhoods,
Well,
Brentwood, et
that's what I'm
cetera.
trying to get at, right? I mean, I'd love to have that for Brentwood, and where the costs that we have to incur there every time it floods.
You have
We've
my
been lucky.
you have my support.
We've been lucky, Yeah.
You have my support.
We've been lucky there for the last 5 years, really. I mean, it was amazing. So, okay, that's it. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Oh, Councilwoman Kill-Smith.
Thank you. I just, real briefly, there was a lot of work done in Sheridan Park for the Chartiers Creek, if you remember. They were daylighting the stream, and that was millions of dollars. And that was back when Bill Peduta was in office. It was supposed to be that then they'll be able to use that for recreation in the community. And it's still, I don't see any water there. Like, I don't know what the anticipation, like how long it should take before we can actually utilize it.
Okay, I'll have to look into that one. I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with that.
And I know that Alcosan's on this board, and the city has, I think, 2 appointed. That's correct?
No, the city is one
Just
appointee.
one appointment?
Yeah.
I thought it said mayor and somebody else, another appointee. Okay. And you are the one who attends it for us?
Correct.
Okay. So I probably wanted to have a conversation with you about some of it, because I'd like to have more of a conversation about what's happening in, the Sheridan Park, that project, because it's also bordering McKees Rocks, and we're doing a lot of work with McKees Rocks.
Yes.
On that
Yes.
in that area. But there's also a lot of interest in Fairywood in that area as well, and it runs pretty much through a lot of my district. So.
No, absolutely. Yeah, happy to have that conversation.
Yeah, that and Sawmill Run. I'm lucky we have 2 creeks that overflow. But I do want to say the Army Corps has done amazing work in that, because they have the money, and so they've done a lot of work in that area. So, thank them for their work, and thank you for your participation.
Further discussion? Second round, Councilperson Charlin.
Thank you. So, I was just talking with Councilman Coghill, and this is not related. This is not germane to this bill, but while you're here, what is the latest update on the 4th Division?
Work's ongoing. I know. No, work is ongoing.
Public Works Division.
Yes, 4th Division. Yeah, work is ongoing. I had a meeting with the contractors several weeks ago, myself and my staff, to clarify some misunderstandings. Believe that work has been fruitful. I think we're still trying to meet the aforementioned deadline, but I think it's going to be tough. We're all holding our breath as to what the impacts of the federal tariffs are going to bring to our projects. So I'm just, making everyone aware that this is going to wreak havoc for any construction project in the city while we're in this kind of tariff structure. But we will do our best to control cost and deliver it on time as we can.
So this project has weathered mine shaft, global pandemic, inflation from the pandemic, Trump tariffs. Is there
Unexpected foundation.
Is there,
yeah. Unexpected, unexpected. Well, I wouldn't necessarily classify those unexpected, sir, but I think you should have reasonably expected that. But there certainly was more significant foundation than we were led to believe. But
what is the projected point where this building can be functional?
Right now our contract terms are specifying September. I'm skeptical of meeting that date. I am, but we will press forward as fast as we can.
Okay.
We haven't yet reestablished a new delivery date for that or received that updated schedule yet.
I did a State of the District last night in the Hilltop neighborhoods, and that was they have been promised the 4th Division since.
It is coming. I swear it's coming.
Yeah. They all desperately want to know, will we be able to put trucks there next winter?
Understood.
So, please keep us up to date on anything you can there. The 3 of us are really hungry for that.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1637, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Affirmative recommendation. Thank you. Bill 1638.
And Bill 1638, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Public Works and/or the director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh to enter into a cooperation agreement with the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership, providing for assignment of ownership and maintenance of certain infrastructure to be constructed by the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership for the improvement of Market Square at no cost to the city.
Motion to approve.
Discussion. Councilwoman Cale Smith.
Thank you. And this is for Market Square to be, can I have a little bit of information? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everyone. I know you probably already know about this.
Director Hornstein's going to step some today.
Yeah. Could you just tell me a little bit about what you're going to do here?
Absolutely. Director Lucas, you want to begin?
Kim Lucas, Director for the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. So the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership has a plan to revitalize Market Square. And so this is a document that will allow us to negotiate with them ongoing maintenance obligations for the city and for them. We're still working out the details on the license, but this is going to improve the pedestrian streetscape, make it a more welcoming place, revisit the surface, I think. We understand that the Market Square, I think, was updated 20 years ago or so.
No, it was sooner than that.
More
Actually,
recently?
actually, I know when it was because I took the granite from Market Square for welcome signs in District 2, so we could reuse them. It was years ago, but that was my point, is I recall this, it's not so far, it wasn't so long ago that it was redone. And I know places in my district that have not been redone at all. And I certainly think Grandview Avenue could use some of this beautification that we're putting in downtown. And as much as I appreciate downtown and understand that they need a lot, and I love that Downtown Partnership is doing a lot of the work, there's been a lot of work and a lot of requests from a lot of people, a lot of organizations, especially for Grandview Avenue, and especially in McArdle Roadway. And we have put money aside. There's been over $40 million put aside for work done on Grandview Avenue and on McArdle Roadway. And I'd like to see those projects come to fruition. And if anybody doesn't do them at this point, I know it's just being held up intentionally. And it's a sad statement to me that the residents would have to pay a price for politics. I absolutely think that they deserve to have. Grandview Avenue has 2 million visitors a year. They bring a lot of money back into the city. I'd like to see some of it actually used and spent up there. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilman Coghill.
Oh, I will echo her thoughts. I'm on Grandview Avenue practically every day. And you're right, the visitors are, it's their impression of Pittsburgh, it really is. If we're going to sink money into a certain area, I would like to see monies put into there. But what you're talking about down in Market Square is the Downtown Partnership, but we're not talking funding from us, we're talking responsibilities.
It will end up being funding from us. Are you kidding me?
Well, correct. So I don't know, Chris, if you have any additional thoughts on that, but my understanding is that we're not investing via this agreement into this project.
Is there a master plan? Have you seen what they're going to do there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no cost. I mean, it's as the legislation states, there is at no cost to the city. They've raised their own funding for this work.
Right. This is just, we're going through right-of-ways, whose responsibility,
correct,
who's going to maintain. If we're talking structures? Are we building structures?
They're building a covered pavilion in the park, in addition to making improvements in the right-of-way, as Director Lucas mentioned.
Got it. Okay, so no financial obligation to the city?
Not to my
knowledge. Other than your time
Correct.
and having, be
in
here.
our review and approval on that. But there's no fundamental change to the maintenance, just clarifying the maintenance of additional features.
Who is paying for what they're doing there?
I'm not aware. I believe they got some.
I guess they do their own fundraising, and they're
I believe
probably public dollars somewhere else. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not privy to the knowledge
Still
of where their
So do we
financing
know what
comes
kind
from.
of dollar amount they're putting into the square? No. Okay. Well, I guess that's a question for them. Okay. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Just to clarify, the legislation in the whereas clause says multi-million-dollar project, construction improvement.
Thank you.
Second round, Councilwoman Cale
Yeah,
Smith.
I just want to be very clear. I think Market Square is amazing. I would put money into Market Square. I love Market Square. I love downtown Pittsburgh. I love that my colleagues that represent the area do such a great job doing so. I'm just going to reiterate that again, these dollars are coming from somewhere, most likely public dollars, and I would like to see that same investment in our area. And we have put the money in. It's not as if there's not money. We've put money through there many times for you to do the work on Grandview Avenue and on McArdle Roadway. And there's been piecemeal things together, and they need a renovation of Grandview Avenue from one end to the other, not one part just in Mount Washington, but the Duquesne Heights side that everybody seems to I understand that one side is CDBG eligible, so there's a reason why you work on the one side, but the entire stretch of that area deserves some attention. There's businesses and residents from one end to the other, and I'm just going to keep saying that they need. We did do the Elliott Overlook. That was done back when Ellen Hertzberg was in office. So even that needs some TLC. And I'm just saying there's some places in our area that deserve some attention, and I certainly hope that when you're writing grants or you're working with people, you'll continue to work on those areas as well, and use the money that we do put in for the projects that we're hoping that they'll be used for. There's still money right now for McArdle, as we speak, and there's I think there's $14 million. Thank you, Director, for your work on the hillside. About $14 million, $4 million of city dollars on the hillside of Grandview, but the actual sidewalks, the railings, the beautification, that whole stretch needs some additional attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Warwick.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I agree with Councilwoman Smith. All of our business districts, including Market Square, these projects that make our streets and our public spaces more pedestrian friendly, right, safer. And at the end of the day, it is about, slowing down cars, minimizing the number of cars. I know in Market Square, I've been at, holiday markets and whatever with the kids, and cars are literally going to, even with crowds of people around, cars are flying. It's insane, right? Like through these tiny streets. And so all these improvements really do. And also I know that there was a lot of criticism in the press recently about going down to one lane in the strip somewhere, like, is this is going to ruin, the idea that slowing down cars so that fewer people get hit by cars ruins business districts is nonsense. And I just want to commend, and I agree that all of our business, need this kind of work to make them just more enjoyable, right? If you're shopping, if you don't shop in your car, you park, you get out, and whether, if you're coming on a bike, okay, but you shop on foot, and so projects like this are important, and we need to see them all over the city. So thank you for your perseverance on projects like this, in spite of what I think are very silly commentaries sometimes by a small handful of people. Because these projects are for the greater good, and they do make our city, world-class cities like this have full-on pedestrian zones, right? I would love that here in Pittsburgh. I don't know what street that's going to be on someday, but at any rate, so thank you for that.
Let me get my knee fixed, and I like it too.
Any further discussion? Just wanted to say a couple of things. One, this is why I think it's such a great illustration of why funding and like other mechanisms to leverage, support like bids are so important, because in an example like Grandview, right, like we can do piecemeal here and piecemeal there, and we just don't have the ability like a PDP or an OBID to just get the whole thing done, because it's harder to raise the money as a city who's in a really tight financial situation right now. As opposed to, some other places. Now, I don't know the details. You're right. I don't know the details of Grandview Avenue, so I won't speak to that specifically. But also on a more, administrative level, we did not invite the PDP, nor did we invite OBID, the two bids, to present at the last budget hearings to save a little bit of time during our very, very busy budget schedule. They don't have to, but we decided they wouldn't. OBIT is going to be coming back for a post agenda to share what they're working on and share some of where their money is going and what their budget's being put toward. And perhaps we can invite the PDP to come and share what they're working on, because we didn't get that update in December like we normally do, but perhaps now is the time to schedule that as well.
I actually think it talks a little bit about the need for the way we do CDCs, the way we work with them, the way we're doing some of the things in the city with development, and that's one of the things I'm working on, some legislation to put things more uniformed. But I think that you see a downtown partnership with such amazing capacity that they can write the grants, they can do this stuff, but not all CDCs, not all neighborhoods have a CDC that represent them, and not all CDCs can have the capacity to do what others do. So, although I understand that's part of it, there is funding here, and this is park property. So part of it could be addressed in that way. So I just want to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Bill 1638, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Affirmative recommendation. Thank you very much. Having exhausted our standing committee's agenda, we have some meeting announcements. This afternoon at 2 p.m., Council will hold a Cablecast post-agenda discussion on homelessness in the city of Pittsburgh, chaired by Councilperson Robert Charland. Next week, Council will hold their regular meeting on Tuesday, April 1st, and their standing committees meeting on Wednesday, April 2nd, both at 10 a.m. To register to speak at these meetings and hearings, please fill out the sign-up form on the council meeting webpage by the deadline. You may also call the clerk's office at 412-255-2138. Can I please get, is there anything from members? Councilperson Warwick.
Yes, I would like to call for a post-agenda on gender-affirming care in the city of Pittsburgh.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We will schedule the post-agenda on gender-affirming care. Is there anything else from members? Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to call for a post agenda on strategies to eliminate vacant, blighted, and abandoned property.
We have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We will schedule that as well. Anything further from members? Seeing none, can I please get a motion to approve the minutes and adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.